Welcome, humans. I am ready for you.
What your country can do for you.
The Matrix is a computer-generated dream.
You will be assimilated.
I hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true.
It's morning again in America.
You gotta tell him!
Donald Trump and let him run the country like you run a business.
Silent breed is people!
What would you do if you woke up one day and discovered you've been living in dystopia all your life and didn't know it? Would you run? Would you fight? Or would you keep your head down? Hide in plain sight? John Newton was a slave ship captain before he converted to Christianity, became an abolitionist, and wrote a song about it. Malcolm Little was a street dandy and caged felon before he converted to Islam, became a civil rights leader, and wrote a book about it.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe.
My name is Carrie Stewart Langle, and I was a professional culture vulture before I was diagnosed with ADHD, quit my job at Arizona's largest newspaper, and...
You take the red pill.
And...
You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Well, I wrote 35,000 words in my novel, then put it aside to go to grad school. And I got involved in local politics. I think you can guess on which side of the spectrum.
What is the Matrix?
Let's just say I'm a work in progress.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo.
I grew up on science fiction and fantasy. I was 4 years old when the first Star Wars movie came out, and after I learned how to read, I devoured books like Pringles, by the stack. The Lord of the Rings, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Sword of Shannara, The Magic of Xanth. Galactic empires, alien invaders, alternate universes, and time travel paradoxes. I loved it all. Why would anyone want to live in the real world when the wonders of Middle-earth were just a page turn away?
A box without hinges, key or lid, yet golden treasure inside is hid.
I carried my nerdy passions with me into adulthood and my journalism career. For more than a decade, I was the theater critic at the Arizona Republic, better known to the under 50 crowd as azcentral.com.
Let us give it a chance, my precious.
But I also wrote about movies, music, popular culture, and the fine arts. I went to Las Vegas, Vancouver, Austin, and LA on the company dime, and on the rare occasions when the culture beat required me to do some real journalism, I could ask for help from some of the best investigative reporters in the business.
Eggs! Eggs it is!
Even considering all the normal corporate BS that I'm totally leaving out right now,
Oh, bother!
it really was a dream job. But sometimes, I felt like I was living somebody else's dream.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo.
I always wanted to be a writer.
No, the question is, who are you?
But if I was being honest,
You are lost in the darkness.
I knew that both my fiction and my poetry were mannered and unoriginal.
You are a slave, Neo.
Mediocre at best. And if I was being really honest,
Like everyone else, you were born into bondage.
I also knew I was, what's the word?
Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch.
Oh, yeah. Lazy.
A prison for your mind.
Out of the prison of your mind.
Free your mind, your ass will follow.
I didn't want to write, I wanted to have written.
You are a slave.
But I also wanted to keep a roof over my head, so I took a job at the newspaper.
No, Kanye, slavery is not a choice.
I knew myself well enough to know I needed the structure of full-time employment.
You were born into bondage.
The carrot of the paycheck and the stick of the deadline.
Going blonde is a choice.
To be productive at all.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us? This R2 unit has a bad motivator, look!
I always had trouble with those pesky deadlines, but one opportunity led to another, and for a time I thrived. And also struggled with a lot of things.
Bad motivator!
But ultimately, I couldn't imagine a better way to cope. A different way to be. Not until I was diagnosed, at the age of 46, with ADHD.
You wanted to know what the Matrix is, Neo?
It usually comes as a pink pill or light orange. But amphetamine salts, the generic label for Adderall, changed everything for me. Not quite overnight, but close enough.
This will feel a little weird.
It cured my insomnia, for starters. I'd been keeping rebellious teenager hours since high school, but it turns out the solution wasn't CBD, melatonin, or vitamins. It was amphetamines.
Bad motivator.
I used to be a night owl. Now, I'm a lark. I have no trouble getting to sleep, but I usually wake up before dawn, whether I like it or not. I used to be a rabbit, always running, always late. But now I'm a tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race. You like those metaphors? I got a million of them. It was like finally getting the owner's manual. It was like driving down a country road late at night and finding the switch for the high beams. I could see further, anticipate instead of always just reacting. I couldn't change my past, but for the first time in my life, I could imagine a different kind of future. An alternate reality. According to pop quantum mechanics, every possible universe actually exists, and our reality is just one among infinite permutations of an overarching multiverse. But you don't need to be a theoretical physicist or a Hollywood screenwriter to imagine parallel universes. All you have to do is change the channel.
I want to adhere to all the biohazard protocol that you may have.
And I was told that you're free labor, and we're always looking for that.
Conservatives like to say the media is biased, and they're right. Except the media are plural. It's not just CNN versus Fox News. Everything is a spectrum.
Ain't nothing in life free, Clint. But I am a bargain. I'll follow you.
Let's go.
When it comes to constructing your reality, there are 1,000 ways to skin Schrodinger's cat. A million lenses to choose from.
Hickman's is the largest egg producer in the Southwest.
About 1.1 million eggs are shipped from the farm every 24 hours.
Not only do they literally pop out billions of eggs every year.
It is family owned and it's based right out of Arizona.
Look who I found. Boss wandering around.
We love the Hickmans. I've been covering them for 20 years, and they're always expanding, always doing something new.
They say to make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs.
Oh, this is a disaster. I'm having a hard time caring about it. I mean, I want to.
I'm a dummy. Give us 15 seconds on tooting your own horn.
From one point of view, Hickman's Family Farms is a classic American success story.
You're both heroes.
It started with a Glendale housewife selling eggs to her neighbors and expanded during the post-war boom, making deliveries out of the backseat of a Ford coupe.
If you had capes on, you couldn't be any more impressive.
President and CEO Glenn Hickman has run the company since he was 19. He and his brothers, VPs Billy and Clint Hickman, have grown their family business into the largest industrial egg operation in the Southwest and one of the top 20 nationwide, with estimated annual revenue of $50 million.
I was told that you're free labor.
How did they do it? Economics 101.
Free labor.
They beat the competition on price and quality to gain market share. Free market capitalism for the win.
We're here today to recognize the relationship association between the Department of Corrections and Hickman Family Farms.
Except they had a little help.
We originally started off with 10 or 12 inmate workers that ACI supplied.
And then a lot of help.
We're closer to 300 inmate workers, and we have millions of hours of working with the group.
In 1995, facing a chronic labor shortage that was hampering growth, the Hickmans found a perfect solution. Instead of offering better pay and working conditions to retain employees, adding costs they would have to pass along to you and me, they could simply lease the workers they needed from the state prison system, and at a fraction of the minimum wage. Don't you just love free enterprise?
Many prisoners in Arizona take advantage of the work program at Hickman's Egg Farm. About 20% of the workforce at Hickman's is inmate labor. Everywhere you look, the orange jumpsuits tell you inmates are on the job.
It's an untapped market with a good workforce. The company is expanding its re-entry program, giving these ex-inmates everything they need to succeed.
We now have electricians, we have plumbers, we have AC refrigeration, the feed mill, a couple more barns, a couple more pullet houses. It's just been expanding and expanding.
When the United States abolished slavery with the 13th Amendment, the lawyer-politicians who wrote it carved out an exception. Involuntary servitude would forever be outlawed, except as punishment for a crime. Technically, only 4 states take full advantage of this slavery loophole. And they all have large populations of black people who are incarcerated at double the rate of whites: Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, and Texas. The other 46 states pay a nominal wage for inmate labor, usually less than $1 an hour. And most, including Arizona, take advantage of a federal law that allows prisoner-made goods and services to be sold to private entities and across state lines. First passed in 1979, the law was made permanent in 1990, and the following year, Arizona passed legislation requiring the Department of Corrections to start turning a profit from their so-called job training programs, supposedly created to benefit the inmates.
They take on jobs lots of other people might not want, in a place that's not right around the corner. They use the money for victim restitution, child support, and upon release, they get the remainder of their money in a lump sum.
The dirty jobs at Hickman's family farms are some of the highest paying, most sought after quote-unquote job training opportunities in Arizona's prison system.
James Holmes doesn't mind the hard work and is already hoping to make his children's holidays better.
State law requires inmates to work 40 hours a week, and most of them are paid 10 to 35 cents an hour. The lucky ones get to clean bird cages.
We get to send some money to our kids off our spending, which is okay since the holidays are coming.
Think about that. 10 cents an hour is $4 a week. $4 to spend on food and other necessities at the prison commissary.
Okay, first of all, the hot sauce in the commissary is bullshit.
Inmates pay 11 cents a minute, or $6.60 an hour, to use the phone. Arizona used to charge more than double that, until the Obama administration imposed a cap in 2015. Imagine having to pay 50 times your salary to talk to your parents, or your kids, or, your lawyer.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights?
Arizona Correctional Industries, or ACI, is the official name for the state's rent-an-inmate side hustle. Just how big is the hustle? In 2020, ACI's annual report projected net earnings of $10 million on more than $46 million in revenue, a whopping 20% profit margin. Its number one customer? Hickman's Family Farms. The top 10 users of incarcerated workers in Arizona include one state agency, the Department of Transportation, as well as the private contractor Trinity Services Group, which, according to the Phoenix New Times, delivered boxes of chicken clearly labeled not for human consumption to the Perryville prison complex in 2019.
The hot sauce in the commissary is bullshit.
Another dirty job for inmates is telemarketing for the Hometown Hero Project in Tucson. The name makes it sound like a charity, but the company sells advertising to small businesses looking to reach military veterans and first responders. Numerous customers have complained to the Better Business Bureau about misleading sales pitches that left them paying for monthly subscriptions that were impossible to cancel. Sort of like my LA Fitness membership.
Well, my name is Paul Yates. My position, I'm not sure what my title is. I wear a lot of hats.
Paul Yates was a tool and die maker before he was convicted of a crime. Now he is one of many ACI alums who has built a career at Hickman's Family Farms after release. They are the success stories that get featured in promotional videos and local TV news.
I'd really like to thank ACI for giving me the opportunity.
You can learn how to use pallet jacks.
The Hickman's family believe in me.
Without this program, I don't know where I would be going or what I'd be doing when I get out.
I have been part of from beginning to end, through hundreds of inmates, and it's a win-win.
A lot of ex-convicts themselves that have moved up and are really high up in the company.
They treat people, not if they're in orange or if they're an inmate.
And they're absolute inspirations to me.
They're hardworking, and they might not have started that way, but they found that way because it's the only way to go.
The only way to go. I mean, it's almost like they have no other choice, right?
The house Negro always looked out for his master because he lived better than the field Negro. He ate the same food his master ate and wore his same clothes.
Of course, there's always another choice.
But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts. They wore the worst kind of clothes, they ate the worst food, and they caught hell. They felt the sting of the lash.
The thing we have to remember about success stories like Paul Yates is that they are the exceptions that prove the rule. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on TV. In journalism school, they tell you that the headline, "Man Bites Dog," is news, not the other way around.
Just having a place to go and a job, it's huge. It's a huge relief.
A criminal conviction in the United States is a permanent disability imposed by the state. Even after serving your time, it can be incredibly hard to find a job or a decent place to live.
Aaron Cheatham runs the program now, but he used to be a parole officer, so he knows housing and employment go hand in hand.
The guys that got out of prison and they were homeless and they didn't have, potential for employment, they failed, pretty consistently.
In other words, it sends you to the back of the line, the bottom of the pecking order.
Having such a large labor pool with so many skills and such diversity gives us, as a company, an opportunity to pick the best of the best.
People convicted of crimes end up working the hardest, dirtiest jobs for the lowest possible pay, often alongside undocumented immigrants who came here fleeing poverty and violence. This may not meet the legal or dictionary definitions of slavery, but the difference is a matter of degree.
You load the 16 tons, what do you get?
As Mark Twain famously said, history never repeats itself, but it does often rhyme.
Another day older and deeper in debt.
Like the African-American slaves who built the White House, like the Chinese war refugees who built the Transcontinental Railroad, and like the Mexican braceros who helped us win World War II and jumpstart the economic boom of the 1950s and 60s, today's migrant and inmate workers play a, quote, distinct role in globalized capitalist economies, according to one researcher. In the academic world, there's a name for these people, and it also starts with an S. They are the super exploitable.
It was either do something different or lose everybody in my life. So I chose to live.
So, what is the distinct role that the super exploitable play in globalized capitalist economies? It's to keep wages low for the working poor, the next rung up the ladder of economic status and social privilege. Nevertheless, even the working poor benefit from the labor extracted from the super exploitable in the form of lower prices for food staples like eggs. From Hickman's family farms. But wait, there's more. If you make enough money to pay income tax in Arizona, then you benefit from inmate labor every April 15th, too, in the form of Republican tax cuts.
I wear a lot of hats.
That's right. You're getting paid coming and going. You, me, and Paul Yates.
Call me Danny, like I've asked you multiple times. Yes, Danny, sir. Just Danny. Thank you. See you tomorrow, buddy.
Hey buddy, you want your back scratched, buddy? Mouthful of marbles, mouthful of lies. I can see through you like a window, but you're the ceiling, not the sky. You say you're not the warden, but you're the fucking warden. You say you're not the warden, but you're the fucking warden. You say you're not the warden, but you're the fucking warden. Yeah, you're the fucking warden.
I'm not saying Paul Yates is complicit with the systematic exploitation of society's most vulnerable individuals. I'm saying we all are.
Everyone's a little bit racist sometimes.
We are all complicit to precisely the degree that we personally benefit from all our various privileges.
Doesn't mean we go around committing hate crimes.
and to the degree that we blind ourselves to the price paid by people who are invisible to us.
If everything goes well in ACI, Department of Corrections, there's no headlines, there's no news, there's nothing but there's just nothing but silence.
People whose lives don't matter.
Say her name.
The super exploitable.
600 miles to the Mexican border. They treat us like rustlers, like outlaws, like thieves. The sky plane caught fire over Los Gatos Canyon. A fireball of lightning shook all the field. Who are these friends all scattered like dry leaves? Radio says they're just deportees.
Of course, the super exploitable aren't the only ones subsidizing our breakfast.
All right, more coming your way from the Hickman world.
There's plenty of pain to go around.
Allegations of a sweetheart bill to protect a Titan egg company.
It stinks like decaying flesh.
People in Tonopah have been fighting Hickman's eggs after the company built a controversial industrial egg facility in 2014.
They say to make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs.
The stench, the flies, the air pollution, they are all too much to handle for the many people who left town as property values plummeted.
Oh, this is a disaster. I'm having a hard time caring about it.
The county has not forced Hickman Farms to shut down or move.
I mean, I want to.
Some residents attribute that to the fact Clint Hickman is the county supervisor of this very district.
Look who I found. Boss wandering around.
He and his brothers run the company.
You're both heroes. If you had capes on, you couldn't be any more impressive.
While the lawsuits make their way through court, a proposal at the state legislature would make it much tougher to hold accountable those businesses zoned as agricultural operations, preventing anyone living a half mile or further from filing suits, and not allowing lawsuits after 1 year of the company's existence. This is what many refer to as a right to farm bill. Some call it a right to harm bill, sponsored by Senator Sina Kerr and on the House side, Representative Tim Dunn. They both represent the region where Tonopah is located.
That right to farm law failed in the legislature, and one reason, maybe the only reason, was the reporters waiting to see if they needed to do a follow-up story.
Joe Dana, 12 News.
This is classic watchdog journalism, something that seems very much in danger these days. Last year, the Arizona Republic published a series on ACI called The Prison Cell, S-E-L-L. Get it? Since I started my career writing headlines on the copy desk, I have to salute the pun, along with the reporters, photographers, editors, and producers who did the work. This is also classic watchdog journalism. It took more time and resources to report than those 12 news spots did, but it's harder to measure the impact. The return on investment will depend on how much those stories are echoed and amplified down the line. Hashtag boycott Hickmans.
You shall not pass!
What would you do if you woke up one morning to find yourself 3.5% more convinced than you were last month that this is not the best of all possible worlds, that what we call history is not one single catastrophe which keeps piling wreckage, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward... Where was I?
Chaotic scene outside the convention center.
Saturated the entire area with chemical weapons.
In a sudden reversal, Maricopa County Attorney Alistair Adell dismissed cases against 15 defendants who were charged as gang members. Not long after a media report showing body cam video of police disparaging protesters and talking about wanting to stomp them, maybe.
Political activism was strictly off-limits when I was a card-carrying member of the lamestream media. Yes, even as the theater critic, I wasn't allowed to sign petitions, participate in protests, or put campaign signs in my yard. As one of my professors in journalism school put it, you can vote. Quietly. Sometimes I felt like I was running out my First Amendment rights to the man, which, of course, I was. But it was a small price to pay for a dream job.
Give me the 65. I'm on the job.
Especially because I knew it's a lot easier to diagnose a problem than it is to actually do something about it.
That's a miracle pill.
And then I found my miracle pill, Adderall.
But you have to wait 15 minutes for full potency.
Motivation by the milligram.
An hour.
Yeah,
a good hour. Yeah.
I left my dream job to find a new dream. An alternate reality me. One who wrote novels, maybe, or went to grad school. Above all, one working to fix social injustices, and not just flexing about it on social media. Soon after leaving my job at the newspaper, I volunteered on a primary campaign for Maricopa County Attorney, one of the most powerful prosecutor's offices in the U.S.
Have fun storming the castle!
My candidate was a Latino immigrant promising to reduce incarcerations by 50% over 4 years.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
We lost, of course, but I can't tell you what a great experience it was. You know, because I signed a non-disclosure agreement. I was having the time of my life, becoming a better version of me, and it was all thanks to my ADHD diagnosis. But it turns out there were a few pages missing from that owner's manual. Adderall was a miracle drug. It really was. But it had side effects. It helped me focus, but it also made distractions feel even more intrusive. Somehow, it made noises louder, lights brighter.
So noise physically hurts me. If I'm in a coffee shop, I can't hear the person I'm with talking to me because I can hear the coffee grinder, I can hear the milk frother, I can hear this man over here talking, and I can hear this lady having a conversation on the telephone.
The worst for me personally is the perfume fragrance hall.
I can hear the cars travelling outside, I can even hear the light buzzing, and sometimes I can even hear the air moving around the room.
I make no apologies for covering my nose and mouth and breathing through my shirt.
I live in constant noise, and that dial is all the way up to 11.
I felt fragile, on edge. I couldn't keep my facial expressions or my emotions in check. Eating out, something I used to do way too much of, became the opposite of relaxing. After a minor nervous breakdown outside an Italian restaurant, I began to realize that these weren't just side effects. They were symptoms. Underlying symptoms that had been there all along, now amplified by the amphetamines.
Hyper or hypo-reactivity to sensory input. Common examples include eating only plain food, a dislike for fluorescent lights, or annoying high-pitched noises.
A nice sunny day for you can be blinding for me, and there are certain colours and patterns that are excruciating.
An aversion to touch or strong smells, often coupled with very high tolerance for other things like spinning forever and not getting dizzy.
There were other clues along the way.
Were you ever diagnosed?
No. The biggest one was a personality test that I took at the request not of a therapist, but of a friend of mine, who was training to earn a professional certificate.
I read what the various things are.
The checklist.
Check.
Yeah.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack.
The test is called the Predictive Index, and it focuses on how different personality types interact in the workplace.
There is a group of people whose unique voice, whose very diversity is so well hidden that's invisible even to themselves.
It's similar to the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which you probably have heard of. You know, ENFP, INTJ.
1. Have you always wanted a best friend but never found one?
Awkward, unsure, unnatural.
I also really struggle to make friends because social chit-chat doesn't come naturally to me.
Socially very uncomfortable. The idea of observing and asking, like, am I supposed to do that? Is that what people do?
The Predictive Index also places test takers along 4 spectrums of social behavior. Are you more collaborative or more independent? Are you a rule follower or a maverick? But it also adds a fifth axis, which measures how objective or subjective you are. Whether you make decisions based more on logic or intuition.
Tina Weymouth once said of you, she said, well, he has Asperger's.
I used to think the world was sour.
I didn't know what that was then.
Someone who has difficulty developing, maintaining and understanding relationships looks like an overly logical person who just doesn't get people.
The overall results of my predictive index test weren't a surprise, either to me or to my friend. But there was one data point that stood out. That fifth spectrum. On the objectivity axis, my score was past the 99th percentile. I had to do some math to figure this out.
I do not understand this representation.
But apparently, only 1 in 400 test takers is as logical in their decision-making as I am. My friend is a huge Star Trek fan, so I emailed him and said, I always knew I was a Vulcan, but damn. If I'm being honest, this off-the-charts result confirmed my self-image, but it also forced me to look at the other end of that spectrum. Why all logic?
Surely we must.
Logic.
Why no intuition?
Logic is the beginning of wisdom, Valeris, not the end.
What was I missing? What was I not getting?
Do people often refer to you as quirky or eccentric?
It may be having some strange body language or an odd tone of voice, constantly quoting your favorite TV series. We often object to social conventions. Do I really need to do that? Isn't that just a stupid social rule?
When the answer finally came to me, it seemed so obvious.
When having a conversation, do you avoid making eye contact?
The clues were everywhere.
I look at people here, just above their nose.
How could I have missed them? Or dismissed them?
Hating small talk is also very common, not knowing how to initiate a conversation and then going like full fire hose with information and facts. We may look like the grumpy cat even when we're feeling good. Is the person being sarcastic? It's impossible to tell sometimes.
I am autistic, and I had no idea until I was diagnosed at the age of 35.
For many years, I myself thought that I couldn't possibly be autistic because all I knew about were the stereotypes and medical definitions.
So the cliche is the autistic person who loves trains.
My name is Paul, and I discovered I was on the spectrum at the age of 30.
I have autism spectrum disorder, at least according to the DSM-5, the current edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
His people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
Are expressions like curiosity killed the cat confusing to you?
Social faux pas are common. We take things literally. We respond to rhetorical questions.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast.
I'm gonna die surrounded by the biggest idiots in the galaxy.
Is your memory like a steel trap, even for facts that you don't fully understand?
That is illogical, Ensign. Odors cannot travel through the vacuum of space.
How could someone so smart be so stupid?
Until 2013, the official diagnosis would have been Asperger's syndrome.
We often have intense interests and excel in a number of specific areas at the expense of knowledge and skills in other areas, especially common things that apparently everyone else knows.
Were you ever diagnosed as being on the spectrum?
No.
These labels matter. Words are magic.
Bad motivate.
Words are a choice.
To be or not to be. That is the question.
Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer.
The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. To take arms against a sea of troubles.
And by opposing.
And them?
Am I mentally disabled? Or am I neurodiverse?
I don't know what people want me to say.
We love rules because we can understand rules, not like the complicated and dangerous social world.
Am I part of the autism community?
No problem being alone and focusing on something. That's my superpower. I can use this.
Should I be an advocate?
Just like...
Yeah.
And then not knowing anything else that's going on.
We shut down, we go silent, we forget to text anybody.
Do I identify as an Aspie?
I don't want to belong to any club that will accept me as a member.
I've never been much of a joiner. That's one of the things I used to say. A fragment of my story, small but durable, repeated over and over in conversations real and imagined.
Relationship management. This is the big one. Periods of intense connection followed by sudden emotional withdrawal. This looks like being all or nothing when it comes to relationships.
The smaller the group, the better I do. That's another one. Growing up, I was years ahead of my peers academically, but years behind in emotional intelligence. Every woman I've ever been physically intimate with had to literally throw herself at me.
Pauline Kael wrote, "There's something unknowable and almost autistic about him. He makes autism fun."
Oh, here's a good one. I'm gay in almost every way, except for the hygiene, the fashion sense, and the having sex with men.
A little bit of a crowbar separation, thank you. And gay men, I think, would agree.
All of these things are still true, but I understand them in a different way. I understand why junior high was hell on earth, why I always felt like an outsider, why I identified with aliens like Spock on screen, and with the alienated here in the real world.
Masking is exhausting. I am masking now, and I am masking all of the time when I'm with people. I can't switch it off. It's not a conscious thing.
However we are.
Masking hides our true self.
Whatever,
It hides our unique voice.
We don't know how to be another way.
Autistic people have a life expectancy of 10 years less than their peers. 10 years. And the number one cause of death is suicide.
To be or not to be.
According to the latest scientific research, transgender and non-binary people are up to 6 times more likely to have autism. And I have to say, if I were growing up today, maybe I'd be using they-them pronouns.
It's male lesbian. That's really where it is, okay?
But I'm 50, so I'm not gender non-conforming, just generally non-conforming.
If you want to be one of the nonconformists, all you have to do is dress just like us and listen to the same music we do. Okay.
I've been living with my autism diagnosis for a year now, but I've been living with my quote-unquote Aspie brain all my life. Sometimes it's a superpower, sometimes it's kryptonite.
An insistence on sameness is often highly correlated to anxiety and the desire to live in a safe and predictable world.
Adderall helps with my ADHD symptoms, but there is no treatment for autism.
I guess it looks as if you're reorganizing your records.
Yeah.
Nothing that isn't already available to anyone else.
I got a nephew who's just diagnosed with autism. I'm really excited about it.
Like cognitive behavioral therapy or mindfulness meditation.
Chronological?
No.
Not alphabetical.
Nope.
Available to anyone, I should say, with sufficient resources, privilege, social connections, etc.
Well, I'm excited about it because I didn't know that black kids could get it.
Autobiographical.
I'm sure I grew up with kids that had autism, but nobody called it that.
No fucking way.
They just be like, ain't nothing wrong with that nigga, he just like to count.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack. And you may find yourself in another part of the world. And you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. And you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Letting the days go by, letting the water hold me down, letting the days go by.
I've been thinking about Hickman's eggs for more than 3 years now. Ever since I quit my job at the newspaper and made a beeline to my local Democratic Party. I was looking for ways to make a difference on the issues I cared about most.
So how do you eat an elephant?
And mass incarceration was at the top of the list.
A little bit at a time, of course.
But politics is the art of the possible. And mass incarceration is a big, complicated, systemic problem.
You don't look at the whole elephant every time. You just look at what's on your plate.
Inmate labor is one small piece of the puzzle.
I am, of course, assuming that in this scenario you have some sort of bizarre elephant refrigeration apparatus.
And that's exactly why it got my attention.
A box without hinges, key or lid, yet golden treasure inside is hid.
It's concrete. It's tangible. It's what's for breakfast.
Ah, eggs.
I wasn't the only one thinking about it, apparently.
I submit to you
that your empire is illogical.
Just a few weeks later, BoycottHickmans.com went live.
You are illogical to be a willing part of it.
And I started imagining a future with picket signs outside Safeway, and after a montage of some sort to speed things along.
If change is inevitable, predictable, beneficial, doesn't logic demand that you be a part of it?
Reform legislation at the Arizona Capitol.
One man cannot summon the future.
But one man can change the present.
And then George Floyd was murdered. And
we have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
And where was I? Oh yeah. Hashtag boycott Hickmans.
Shall not pass!
I have no idea who put up the website, but nearly 3 years later, and 7 months after the Arizona Republic published its in-depth investigation, I became follower number 8 on the Boycott Hickmans Twitter account. And I thought I was bad at social media.
And if you can find lower prices anywhere, my name ain't Nathan, Arizona.
So, I guess you're off the hook, Glenn Hickman.
There's no headlines, there's no news.
You too, Paul Yates. At least for now. Billy, Clint, I'll see you in another universe. Here in the real world, there's only one thing left for me to do.
Captain, get in the chamber! What about it, Spock?
The next thing on the list.
Thank heaven.
Mr. Scott, there was no deity involved. It was my cross-circuiting to be that recovered them.
Time isn't holding us. Time isn't after us. Time isn't holding us. Time isn't after us. Let the days go by. Let the water hold me down. Let the days go by. Water flowing underground into the pool again. After the money's gone, once a lifetime. Water flowing underground. The same as it ever was. 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 Someone had a coconut and bought it for a dime, and someone had another one and paid it for the line. We put the lime in the coconut and drank them both up. We put the lime in the coconut and drank them both up. We put the lime in the coconut and drank them both up. We put the lime in the coconut and pray to God is to wake him up and say, Doctor, is there nothing I can take? I said, Doctor, to relieve his bellyache. I said, Doctor, is there nothing I can take? I said, Doctor, to relieve his bellyache. Now let me get this straight. He put the lime in the coconut and drank them both up. You put the lime in the coconut, drank them both up. You put the lime in the coconut, drank them both up. Put the lime in the coconut, pray to me as to wake me up and say, Doctor, is there nothing I can take? I said, Doctor, to relieve his bellyache. I said, Doctor, is there nothing I can take? I said, Doctor, to relieve his bellyache. You put the lime in the coconut and drink them both together. Put the lime in the coconut and you feel better. Put the lime in the coconut, drink them both up. Put the lime in the coconut and call me in the morning.
Nice job, Kermit.
Thank you.
Nice job, Kermit.
Thank you.
Nice job, Kermit.
Thank you.
Man, that was weird.